There's a table at the front of every garden center right now, in July, marked 50% off, and it's full of perennials that looked perfect in May. Wilted phlox, crispy coneflowers, a tray of daylilies nobody wanted because they're already half dead. You bought that flat in April, you babied it through June, and it's dying right now in your yard while you read this. Here's the part nobody tells you. 9 perennials exist that you put in the ground once, this month, in full July heat, and you never touch again. Not water after the first few weeks. Not divide. Not replace next spring. Most people have never planted a single one of them. Number 1 on this list is a plant that can outlive the person who plants it. There are peonies still blooming from gardens that were abandoned decades ago. We'll get there. But we're starting with a plant that's probably already collapsing in your flower bed this exact week, and by the end of this, you'll have a full list you can plant this weekend and genuinely walk away from. Okay, number 9, the daylily swap. Here's the thing. Almost every daylily sold at a big box store in spring is either straight up Hemerocallis fulva, the orange ditch lily, or a weak modern hybrid bred for one giant bloom flush and not much else. It looks incredible for 3 weeks and sulks the rest of the summer. What actually survives is happy returns, or Stella de Oro, reblooming daylilies with a fibrous root system that shrugs off drought because it's not relying on one taproot. It's relying on dozens of little tuberous roots storing water underground. Planted in July, give it consistent water for 2 weeks while roots establish, and that's it, forever. Number 8. And this one genuinely surprised me. Purple coneflower, but specifically straight species Echinacea purpurea, not the fancy double bloom hybrids with names like hot papaya. Those hybrids are gorgeous and honestly, kind of short-lived. 3 years, if you're lucky, because breeding for bigger flowers weakened the plant's natural disease resistance. The species plant has a long taproot, resists powdery mildew, and self-seeds just enough to fill gaps without taking over. Mount Cuba Center actually trialed dozens of coneflower cultivars over several seasons, and the straight species consistently outlasted the showy hybrids by years, not months. Which, by the way, is the pattern you're going to see over and over on this list. The plant tag with the most exciting name on it is almost never the one still standing in year 3. Have you noticed that yet at your own garden center? The boring, plain-looking 6-pack sitting next to the flashy one is usually the one that actually makes it. And that's just the sun-loving side of things so far. Wait until you see what handles being planted and forgotten completely, because number 7 takes it even further. Number 7, Russian sage, now officially reclassified as Salvia youngi, though the tag will probably still say Perovskia. Here's why it doesn't care about your July. It's basically a small shrub disguised as a perennial, with silvery drought-adapted foliage that reflects heat instead of absorbing it. No watering routine needed past establishment. None. It blooms into September and holds its shape through wind and neglect alike. Number 6. Catmint, specifically Nepeta Walker's Low, which is honestly a misleading name because it doesn't stay low at all. It sprawls into this loose silvery mound that spreads just enough to choke out weeds without ever turning invasive on you. This is the plant that fills every gap you never got around to weeding. No mulch required. No edging required. Deer, leave it alone. Rabbits, leave it alone. It survives full neglect all summer and rebounds thicker if you just shear it back once in August with regular hedge trimmers, 30 seconds of effort for another full flush of bloom. Number 5. And here's where the what sells versus what survives thing gets almost funny. Sedum, or Hylotelephium autumn joy, if you want the current correct botanical name, since sedum got reclassified a few years back and half the plant tags haven't caught up. The stuff sold as generic sedum in 6-packs at the grocery store garden section is often a thin, floppy ground cover type that melts into mush over a wet winter. Autumn joy is a different animal entirely. It stores water in thick, succulent leaves, needs essentially zero irrigation once established, and instead of getting weaker with age like most perennials, it gets more structural, more upright, more impressive every single year. If you're still here and you haven't already started a mental list of what you're planting this weekend, go ahead and hit subscribe to Home Plants Hacks because we go this deep into what actually survives every single week. Number 4, and this is the one where I actually said, wait, what, out loud the first time I read the root study. False indigo, Baptisia australis. A baptisia the size of a coffee cup in a nursery pot will send a taproot down 8 feet in the ground, deeper than most house foundations, within a few years. That root is why a baptisia can survive a drought that kills everything around it. It's just not relying on topsoil moisture anymore. It also fixes nitrogen in the soil, so it's improving the ground while it ignores you. Slow to establish, which is exactly why July planting works so well. You get a full season of root growth before it has to perform. Number 3, threadleaf coreopsis, specifically Zagreb, or moonbeam. Not the big bold-flowered annual-leaning coreopsis varieties that crash by year 2. The threadleaf types have fine, almost fern-like foliage that resists the fungal leaf spot that turns the showier varieties brown and crispy by August. Ever wonder why your neighbor's coreopsis looks fine in June and like a fire went through it by August? That's the difference. Foliage density and airflow, not bad luck. Number 2, Amsonia hubrichti, Arkansas Blue Star. And this is a genuine, I can't believe I wasted a decade without this plant pick. It was a Mount Cuba Center trial standout for a reason. Bright blue spring flowers. Then it just becomes this soft, feathery green mound all summer that turns gold in fall, with 0 disease issues and 0 maintenance. No division needed for a decade or more. It doesn't spread aggressively, it doesn't flop, and it genuinely gets better with total neglect, because disturbing the roots is the only thing that sets it back. And now, number 1, the one I told you about at the start. Herbaceous peonies. Not the fussy tree peony, the regular garden peony, planted once and left alone. Peonies can live 50, 70, over 100 years in the same spot. There are peonies still blooming today that were planted by someone's great-grandmother, in yards where the house itself is long gone. The trick with peonies isn't toughness exactly, it's patience. Plant the crown no more than 2 inches deep, because too deep is the single reason people think peonies won't bloom. And then never move it again. That's it. That's the whole instruction. No watering after establishment, no division ever required, no replacing. For all 9 of these, July planting works the same way. Water deeply every other day for the first 2 to 3 weeks to get roots established in the heat. Then step back. These aren't fragile spring transplants. They're built to establish fast and go dormant tough by fall. Just know your zone, because Amsonia and Baptisia handle southern heat differently than they handle a short northern season. That's real, and it's worth checking before you buy. Before we wrap up, drop a comment and tell me which of these you're planting this July, and which one you've personally replanted the most times without knowing why it kept dying. Because here's the actual reframe, the thing that took me way too long to figure out. It was never about trying harder in the garden. It was never about watering more, or babying the flat through June, or feeling guilty about the discount table. It was the wrong plant in the ground to begin with. Fix that once, and you genuinely never have to think about that spot in your yard again.